We've partnered in this debate with CLADO, the Colorado Latino Leadership Advocacy and Research Organization, to better spotlight particular concerns of Colorado's Latino communities. And Marshall Zellinger has that next question.
We're going to go through some stats here. Recent polling by the Colorado Latino Policy Agenda found 83% of the Latinos surveyed are concerned their child could be the victim of a mass shooting. The survey found strong support for a series of gun control measures. I'm going to ask you each a yes or no question. Then you'll have a minute at the end to discuss your overall philosophy on gun rights and gun control. So yes or no questions here. 85% of Colorado Latinos surveyed would support universal background checks for all firearm sales, as Colorado already has. Mr. Bennet, do you support that at the federal level?
Yes.
Mr. O'Day?
I do.
75% of Colorado Latinos surveyed would support increasing the legal age to purchase a so-called assault weapon from 18 to 21. 18 is currently the law in Colorado. Mr. O'Day, would you support a federal law requiring purchasers of so-called assault rifles to be 21?
I would not. No more laws.
Mr. Bennet?
Yes.
75% of Colorado Latinos surveyed would support a 10-day waiting period to purchase a firearm. Colorado does not have a waiting period. Mr. Bennet, would you support that federal 10-day waiting period to buy a gun?
No.
Mr. O'Day?
No.
One more here. 66% of Colorado Latinos surveyed would support a ban on the sale of so-called assault rifles. 8 states and the District of Columbia, where you want to go work, have some form of assault weapon bans, but not Colorado. Mr. O'Day, would you support a federal ban on the sale of so-called assault weapons?
I do not.
Mr. Bennet?
I think we've made enough of these weapons of war in this country.
Now, we can elaborate a little bit on this. I'm going to give you a minute to talk about more of your broader thoughts on gun rights and gun control, starting with Mr. O'Day.
Look, we've got plenty of laws on the books. Every time we turn around and have an event, we put another law on the book. We need to enforce the laws that are on the books now. And I will not be lectured by Democrats that continue to say we need to change this gun law, change that gun law, when they fail to enforce the laws that we already have on the books. If you're a drug dealer and you possess a weapon, you don't get charged with a felony here in Colorado. That's ridiculous to me. We also need to get behind our cops. We need more cops in our society. We need more cops in our community. And I believe that we should have cops in our school systems. They love to talk to the kids. They're a great influence on our kids. If we want to safe up our society, we need more cops. I would be an advocate for taking the $80 billion that we're going to use to shake down working Americans with the IRS and investing that in our local cops.
I have just a couple quick follow-ups. I'm trying to figure out which one to go to first. You mentioned a few Colorado laws, but you're running for federal office. So if school districts are responsible for the cost of having officers in schools, should that be Congress funding that?
Well, I told you, I believe that if we need that at the federal level, I would back a plan to put more cops in our schools. I think it's that important.
So that's more spending. One other thing that you just mentioned, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. It was, toward the end, the $87,000 for the IRS agents. $80 billion for 87,000 IRS agents. Why would that be not okay, but you're saying that we need to enforce the laws in terms of law enforcement and guns? Wouldn't those positions be enforcing the current tax laws? Why is one okay and the other is not?
Look, when we're taxing working Americans that are making less than $100,000 a year and shaking them down, that's not going to be on the upper 1%. That's going to be on working Americans making less than 100 grand. That's just a shakedown. We need to put that money into something that would benefit our society, which right now, with a 30% escalation in crime across the United States, that would be a good use of our money.
Thank you, Mr. O'Day. Mr. Bennet?
I hate to use any of my time correcting the record here on the IRS agents because it's been fact-checked over and over and over again, and what he's saying is false. You know, this takes the IRS back to where it was in 2010. The IRS, my constituents in this state who want to get tax credits back from the U.S. government, 1 out of 10 gets their phone answered at the IRS. The software is from the 1960s. And it's been made clear by the administration that nobody who's making less than $400,000 is going to hear from the IRS because of this money.
Well, that's not true.
If you do hear, could I finish my answer? If you do hear from the IRS, I want to hear about it in my office in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, people like Joe O'Day are getting away, the richest people in America are getting away with murder. They're not paying their taxes. They're never audited. And it's a huge distinction between where he is and where I am. On guns, I just want it to be very clear. Joe O'Day said He supports no gun laws beyond what we already have as a society. He's against the red flag law we have in Colorado. And he said that he would have voted against the bipartisan gun bill that is the first time in generations that Republicans and Democrats have overcome
Mr. Bennet,
the
you
NRA
chose to
together.
talk about the IRS instead of guns. Red flag law, is that true, what he said?
Look, let's clear this up. Mike Crapo ran an amendment that would have prevented any audits under $400,000 a year, and you and your Democratic Party voted against it. You're making it clear you're shaking down working Americans making less than 100
Thank you,
grand.
Mr. O'Day.
That was a show amendment. He didn't answer your question, obviously, about the red flag law.
Thank you both.